One thing a lot of people don't know is that your ability to co-parent well after your divorce actually depends on the way you get divorced. One of the things we do at the DivorceYour Family Law Group is we actually work with our clients to build in those co-parenting skills throughout the process of getting divorced, especially when they choose either mediation or collaborative divorce. We actually work with you through this process of collaboration, through setting boundaries, through working through conflict, through listening to each other, to working things out. While you're doing that to get to the terms that are ultimately going to be in your divorce, you're actually developing the skills you need to work as great co-parents on the other side of your divorce. So one thing people don't realize is the divorce is just a small season. It's not going to last forever. There is going to be a point where you don't have attorneys there anymore. You don't have a mediator there anymore. And the two of you are left to figure out what to do. And even the most robust, in-depth parenting plan cannot possibly cover everything that happens in life. We know that. We try. Trust me, I try my best. Having been a mom who's raised kids on a parenting plan almost their entire lives, to being a divorced lawyer who deals with parenting plans day in and day out, we try to account for every possible scenario, but we all know life is unpredictable. Things happen, and there's not always going to be a plan. It's going to be imperative that you and your ex-spouse have a way to communicate in such a way that you're able to put your kids first and figure out your conflicts, figure out your disagreements, and work together. And so if, of course, you run to the nastiest lawyer in town and y'all run into court and start fighting, how are you expected to work anything out after a process like that? When there's a winner and a loser, when you're going to war, how are you able to develop trust? The trust that you have to have, even when trust has been broken. I've actually seen families or two people at the end of a collaborative divorce actually hug each other when it's all over. Of course, that's an extreme, but it's always the goal. Your kids are the winners when you are able to learn how to work through your problems when you're co-parent. It doesn't mean that you guys have to be best friends. It doesn't mean it's this kumbaya moment. Not everybody gets to have that. But if you are learning the skills needed with the right divorce professional involved in your case who actually cares about your success after they're working with you, then you're going to be poised for success and your kids are going to be the winner. And that's what I want you to focus on, is how you're going to set your kids up for success once the divorce is actually over. A story from my own divorce I can share is that because we were unfortunately involved in fighting things out with lawyers and in court, we were constantly posturing. We couldn't just have a text exchange without it becoming something that one of us thought might be read in court one day. And so we were constantly talking past each other. We were constantly talking from places of power and trying to assert our power. And our kids were completely lost in that mix. When we finally decided that we were going to knock that off and start being good co-parents, we actually were able to communicate and listen to each other. And I did not always agree with them. And in fact, we still disagreed often. But the difference was I wasn't worried about if what I said was going to get me in trouble with a judge later, because I knew that me and my husband, we were going to work through this problem for the benefit of our kids. And I could tell you now, this is someone who I literally spent 5 years fighting it out in court with, that I can have a conversation with today, and we actually laugh. We actually enjoy sharing funny stories about our kids. We're actually both were able to go with my new husband and take our daughter to college together as a team. And that's really the goal. It doesn't mean that maybe we're best friends, but it does mean that we all know that we're here to put these kids first, and that we're a team that loves these kids and wants to see them succeed. And that means we all win. So we move out of this idea that there's a winner and a loser, and the idea that we're all going to win because we're all focused on what the kids need. Your kids didn't choose this divorce, but the choices that you make through the process of getting divorced is absolutely going to affect how the divorce ultimately affects them. And so one of the things I'm really excited about, I have recently become certified in a process called First Mediation. And this is a process where we actually put aside all issues in divorce and focus on the parenting plan first and work things out to build a parenting plan, build in co-parenting skills, build in conflict resolution skills, to build out a parenting plan that actually serves your family. We can provide as much detail as you want. We can go through all the nuances associated with your children. Maybe your children are into travel ball. Maybe your children have special needs and there needs to be a lot of extra information in your parenting plan. We can go as in-depth as you want. And then from there, once we have built in all of those skills for conflict resolution, built in those skills for negotiation and coming to compromise, then we move into the financial part of your divorce. But before we ever get there, we've put those kids front and center, and you've actually developed the skills you're going to need for us to tackle some of those harder issues, those hot button trigger issues. Unfortunately, in the regular or the old way of getting divorced, everybody's fighting over money. Everybody's so caught up in fighting over the financial part of it, the kids get lost in the mix. And by then, everybody hates each other so much, there's no prospect of having a good co-parenting relationship. So at Kids First Mediation, we totally flip that script. We start with the kids. We put the kids first. We come up with a parenting plan. And through the process of doing that, you're going to see you are able to compromise with your ex, even somebody who's difficult to deal with. It's going to make you feel confident. It's going to build that confidence around, hey, I think we can actually work this out and not waste our child's entire college fund fighting in court. We're actually going to get common sense, real world parenting plan that actually works for our family. And now that we've built in those skills, we can tackle the challenging issues regarding the finances and get divorced without ever even stepping foot in a courtroom. But it takes your commitment and your willingness to try to think outside the box and try to do things differently and move out of the win and losing paradigm that we've all been given from the beginning, and just being willing to say there is a better way because I want my kids to thrive. And even though you're getting a divorce, even though you're done with your marriage, I know that if you've listened this far to me, that there's one thing that's important to you and you agree that your soon-to-be ex-spouse would also agree with you, that your kids are going to thrive. No matter what, the two of you are going to figure out a way to make this work for your children. And so if that's you, then this process is literally designed for you and your soon-to-be ex.